When Officer Mendoza fired the third and fatal shot, he knew the 12-year-old, 5-foot-tall, 111-pound Thomas Sedario no longer had a gun.
Right now, we're bleeding.
Take a close listen to this home security video that captures the moments after the police-involved shooting of 12-year-old Thomas Sedario.
He shot, yeah, I shot. We got shots fired.
Police have not verified who's speaking in the video, but it may be an officer asking where's the gun because they say Sedario initially fired at an unmarked police vehicle before running.
Police say they're searching for these two male suspects. Surveillance video shows the suspects approach the victim's vehicle on the 3600 block of North 17th Street in Tioga Nicetown back on February 13th. Police say the suspects shot and killed 32-year-old Denver Newton and 53-year-old Lamont Wright before fleeing the scene in a black Nissan Altima.
Police have released new surveillance video they hope will help them identify a man wanted in connection to a shooting inside of an apartment building in Germantown. The video shows the suspect entering the Cliveden apartments on the 200 block of East Cliveden Street just before midnight. Police say he shot a 16-year-old boy multiple times while the teen was babysitting his young cousins. The suspect fled the scene as a passenger in a black sedan.
The stories we cover on this channel very rarely are similar. Sometimes they're bizarre, and sometimes dumbfounding and predictable. Covering crime in Philadelphia is often heartbreaking, and is most of the time just downright tragic. Just was the case when a 16-year-old boy was gravely injured after being shot multiple times upon answering his front door earlier this month. The incident occurred just before midnight on Monday, April 15th. According to Philadelphia Police Chief Inspector Scott Small, at least one person entered the residence immediately after the teenager opened the door and discharged 6 shots, hitting him in both the abdomen and the arm. This occurrence of violence highlights the chaos that can unpredictably erupt even in what would otherwise be considered a safe environment, like your home. Fortunately, 2 of the younger children who were asleep inside the house during this incident were unharmed. The circumstances surrounding the shooting are under investigations as authorities seek to understand the motives behind this attack and identify those responsible. In the wake of the shooting, police reported that the 16-year-old was in stable condition. The incident, which occurred while he was babysitting his 2 younger cousins, ages 5 and 7, could have led to even more tragedy. Inspector Scott Small emphasized the fortunate outcome regarding the younger children who were inside the home at the time of the attack, as I said earlier. The younger children were asleep on a living room couch when the bullets were fired, leading to multiple bullet holes in the wall near where they were sleeping. We're very, very lucky that those 2 children, aged 5 and 7, were not struck by gunfire because that's where the shots were fired, Small explained. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you know.
Someone opened fire on a parked car in Tioga Nicetown, killing 2 people inside. In the end, more than 20 shots were fired, but there are still questions about the motive as the family tries to come to terms with what was lost.
Police say they're searching for these two male suspects. Surveillance video shows the suspects approach the victim's vehicle on the 3600 block of North 17th Street in Tioga Nicetown back on February 13th. Police say the suspects shot and killed 32-year-old Denver Newton and 53-year-old Lamont Wright before fleeing the scene in a black Nissan Altima. We spoke to Newton's family, who describes this as a gruesome, senseless act that has caused the family so much pain and sorrow. They say Newton went out to run errands that day and never returned home. Instead, they received a call from police.
When they told me that she was gone, it was literally the worst day of my life. This is something that I can't get over.
In a somber occurrence that unfolded on the afternoon of February 16th, 2024, in Philadelphia's Tioga Nicetown area, a man and a woman were tragically found deceased from gunshot wounds inside a car. Police were called to the scene just before 4 p.m. at the 3600 block of North 17th Street near Erie Avenue, where they discovered the victims in the front seats of a parked Kia Sportage. The vehicle's engine was still running when officers arrived, indicating the abrupt and violent nature of the event. The victims were pronounced dead at the scene, with the police quickly identifying them as 32-year-old Denver Newton and 53-year-old Lamont Wright from Los Angeles. The circumstances surrounding their deaths led investigators to believe that the shooting was a targeted act though the motive remains unclear. Eyewitness accounts provided further chilling details, revealing that the assailant was observed fleeing in a dark-colored vehicle shortly after the shooting. Despite these leads, no arrests have been made, leaving the community seeking answers. Surveillance footage from the area captured the unusual scene where suspects approached a parked Kia Sportage and fired multiple shots at Denver Newton and Lamont Wright. Following the attack, perpetrators fled in a black Nissan Altima, according to the investigators' report. This attack, which police believe was targeted, has shattered the lives of the victims' families. Speaking to Action News, Denver Newton's family recounted the devastating impact of her untimely death. On the day she was killed, Denver had merely gone out to run errands, a routine activity that tragically became her last. Her family's anguish was palpable as they described the heart-wrenching moment they learned of her death. Quote, "When they told me that she was gone, it was literally the worst day of my life," Valerie Saunders, Denver's mother, shared. Denver was remembered as a vibrant, high-energy individual who was always, quote, "the life of the party," according to her mother. Her sister Shannon reflected on Denver's radiant presence, noting her smile could light up the room. The family's grief was compounded by another recent loss, as they had mourned the death of their father just 3 months prior. Shannon expressed the relentless pain of their current reality, saying, quote, "It's a living nightmare that you don't wake up from." The tragedy also deeply affected Denver's 9-year-old son, who told reporters, "I wish my mom was still here." As the investigation continues, the family clings to the hope for justice.
Shot him in cold blood. He shot him right over top of him.
That's an execution. That's a murder.
Disturbing details revealed about the killing of a 12-year-old boy. Now a former officer is charged with murder after a deadly shooting of Thomas Siderio, and his family says it never should have happened. This is Eyewitness News at 6, and we are streaming live on CBS News Philly. Good evening, everyone. I'm Yuki Washington.
I'm Jessica Cartalia. We begin with these new developments and accusations against a former officer of the Philadelphia Police Department. Edsal Mendoza is facing the following charges: murder in the first degree, murder in the third degree, voluntary manslaughter, and possession of an instrument of crime with intent.
Edsal Mendoza, a former Philadelphia police officer, has admitted to third-degree murder for the 2022 fatal shooting of a 12-year-old boy, Thomas Siderio. The plea was entered before Judge Deanna Anholt in the Court of Common Pleas of Philadelphia County, with additional charges including possession of an instrument of crime, also acknowledged by Mendoza. At 28 years old, Mendoza now faces a potential 40-year prison sentence. He is scheduled for sentencing on July 22nd. The incident unfolded on the night of March 1st, 2022, when Thomas, while attempting to evade a foot chase, fired at an unmarked police vehicle containing Mendoza and 3 other officers. Initially, Mendoza was charged with multiple counts, including first-degree murder and voluntary manslaughter. However, these were narrowed down to the charges he pleaded guilty to. Notably, this shooting occurred after Thomas, who had initially fired at the officers, was no longer armed. Officer Mendoza and 3 other Philadelphia police officers were surveilling the neighborhood in the south side of the city in an unmarked police vehicle when they came across Thomas and a 17-year-old boy, the authorities said at the time. The officers were not searching for Thomas and the other boy that day, the police previously said. Unmarked car passed Thomas and shortly later returned. That's when Thomas fired at the vehicle, the authorities said. 3 of the officers took cover after the shot was fired. Mendoza ran after Thomas in what authorities described as, quote, "a tactically unsound foot chase." Officer Mendoza fired at Thomas 3 times during the chase, twice while Thomas was armed and once after he had discarded the weapon, according to the district attorney's office. The 3rd shot pierced Thomas in the back, and he was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Larry Krasner said at a news conference after the shooting that when Mendoza fired the 3rd and fatal shot, he knew the 12-year-old, 5-foot-tall, 111-pound Thomas Siderio no longer had a gun and no ability to harm him. Quote, "But he fired a shot through his back nonetheless that killed him," said Krasner. Mr. Mendoza, who was fired from the police department after the shooting, also faces a federal civil suit that was filed by the Siderio family in January against him and the city of Philadelphia. In a lawsuit filed in the U.S. Eastern District Court, the family of Thomas Siderio claims that Thomas was killed, quote, "execution style," highlighting the manner in which the fatal shot was delivered after the young boy had already discarded his weapon. Moreover, the family contends that this incident is indicative of an abysmal systemic policy failure within the Philadelphia Police Department and the broader city administration. I'm going to leave it there for now. Thanks for watching American Confidential, and until next time, be safe.